I understand it's the government's position to get a conviction in this case, but there's a lot more to this case than what he told you. Some of that I agree with, some of it I don't, but he left out a whole lot of stuff. So I'd like to paint y'all a picture of what I think you're going to see in this particular case. March the 2nd, 2011. It was the Wednesday before spring break was going to start. It was a pretty day outside. Everybody's MTSU getting ready. Like I said, it was a Wednesday. Everybody's getting ready for Friday. That's when spring break would have started. There were two young girls from Memphis, Tennessee, both the first in their families to attend college. He told you about Miss Stewart. I'll tell you about Miss Madden. Both of these girls, the first in their families to go to college. Both young African-American girls from Memphis, Tennessee. Both had risen above many of the adversities that face young ladies that are in the minority. Miss Stewart was a Division I athlete. She was in her third year at MTSU. She was on an athletic scholarship. She was 21 years of age, as he told you. She was an exceptional athlete. You're going to hear that she started many games at MTSU. She worked hard for her position on the team. Not only was she a gifted and blessed basketball player, but she was a good young lady as well. She worked hard at lifting weights. She ran a lot. You're going to hear Mr. Anuna that he kept talking about that they met lifting weights. That's how they first met each other. You're also going to hear about Miss Madden. She had turned 18 about 6 months earlier. She was a freshman at MTSU, had never lived away from home before, had always lived at home with her mama and her daddy, her little brother and her little sister. She had chosen MTSU because of the opportunities it presented. She wanted to become a lawyer someday. She was on an academic scholarship, had always taken honors classes in high school, and was taking 15 hours in the fall, and had an 18-hour load, full load, without getting permission during the spring semester when this occurred. Miss Madden, 4'11", and I don't have her exact overweight, just to be blunt. He told you Dr. McMaster is going to say that Miss Stewart was 5'3". Well, Detective Taylor's going to tell you she was 5'7" or 5'8". What I would submit to you is that's one more error in Dr. McMaster's report, but that'll come out when she takes the stand. But it's just wrong. Miss Madden never lifted any weights, never exercised, never went running, none of that. So one may ask, well, how did things go wrong in this particular case? Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about what led up to March the 2nd. The summer of 2010, Miss Stewart was already at MTSU, already a resident at Raiders Crossing. Miss Madden had just finished high school, had just been accepted to Middle Tennessee State University. Miss Madden gets flyers and cards in the mail from Raiders Crossing, and she and her mama and her daddy decide she's going to go to MTSU. And you're going to hear that her mama had to sign the lease with her because she was only 17 at that particular time. August of 2010, when school starts, to Christmas of 2010, you're going to hear that everything is going pretty smooth there at the apartment between these two girls. You're going to hear that Miss Stewart had just relocated from a different apartment into this apartment, and that Miss Madden shows up. General Newman told you these two girls didn't know each other. Well, that's kind of true. What the proof's going to show is that on that first night that Miss Madden came down, Miss Stewart was already in the apartment, and Miss Stewart had already moved into the apartment, but she wasn't there. Miss Madden moves into the apartment, and she's looking at her syllabuses, getting ready for school. And Miss Stewart comes in, and Miss Madden says, because I told y'all a minute ago they both were from MTSU, Miss Madden says, you played basketball at Memphis. And she said, yeah. And she said, I remember you. Now, were they buddies or friends? No, but they did recognize each other. They both had grew up in the general same area in Memphis. But while they were in high school, Miss Stewart would have been a senior, Miss Madden would have been a sophomore. So everything rocks along pretty smooth at that particular time. Christmas, both of these girls go back to Memphis to spend time with their families. January 2011, things start to change. Now this is part of what they left out. And you say, well, what could have changed? Well, he talked to you a lot about Mr. Anuna. Mr. Anuna took up residency in the apartment that was shared by Miss Stewart and Miss Madden. Miss Madden and Miss Stewart are the only two people on the lease. Mr. Anuna moves in for all practical purposes. Mr. Anuna shows up with Miss Stewart's key on several occasions and comes in. unannounced, while just Miss Madden's there. Miss Stewart's not even there. And you're going to hear about that. And on one of these occasions, Miss Madden gets to telling her mama, I got out of the shower, this man's here, Miss Stewart's not here, what's going on? And at that particular time, her mama calls the apartment complex. Mid-January. She did what a lot of mamas would do. She didn't do what her daughter wanted her to do. Hey, leave this alone. Things are fixing to go from bad to worse. She calls the apartment complex. The apartment complex says, well, we need...
Can we approach this a second?
Sure.
Okay, real quickly here, as we're watching in the middle of Joe Brandon's opening statement. What's this, Nick, a sidebar?
Yeah, this is a sidebar. There's obviously been an objection by the state to Mr. Brandon's opening argument, and which is, you know...
Is this unusual in an opening statement?
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of times when you object, I think, frankly, that Mr. Brandon could have objected to some of the things that General Newman was saying, but when you do that, you call attention to those matters. And sometimes it may be a tactical advantage just to let it slide and move on, but they've obviously objected to something, and I believe he was talking about maybe some potential hearsay, and so they go up there and they get that on the record, and that's why the judge has that microphone. The jury doesn't know, but it's preserved for the appellate review.
Jury didn't hear it. Okay, let's go back and listen in.
So I think where I was is Miss Madden's mom's called the apartment complex. The apartment complex says, we need to talk to Miss Madden, Miss Shanterrica Madden. And I think her mom explains to them, look, I'm on the lease also because she was 17 years old when y'all signed it. I want to talk about this. I want y'all to move these girls. I want y'all to do something. There's conflict brewing over there. I don't like it. Apartment complex says, once again, we got to talk to the girls. So Miss Madden's mom gets a hold of Shanterrica, and Shanterrica goes to the apartment complex like her mom tells her to do. And when she gets there, she realizes that the apartment complex, they want to have a sit-down with the girls, but they've already tried to contact Miss Stewart by telephone and left messages, but Miss Stewart didn't answer. So Miss Madden gets ready to leave the apartment that day, and the apartment complex encourages her to try to talk it out. She says, I'll try to talk it out. She gets home that night, and as she gets home, this is where the music starts to change, and the whole tone changes. She walks into the apartment. Miss Stewart and Mr. Ahuna are leaving. And on this particular day, it's different. The music's left loud in Miss Stewart's room. The radio's left blaring. No words are exchanged, no cordials, no hey, what's going on. Miss Madden goes on in the apartment. Miss Stewart and Mr. Ahuna leave. A couple hours, 2 or 3 hours later, Mr. Ahuna and Miss Stewart show back up. Miss Madden says, hey, I'd like to talk to you about something. Miss Stewart says, sure. Tells her boyfriend to go turn the radio down. And they talk. And talk about, hey, the boyfriend's been over here a lot, and this is just, you know, I feel uncomfortable with that. It's just not working out like this. And I think what the proof's going to show is, Mr. Ahuna was there, heard it. Miss Stewart says, no problem. This is your apartment too. I'll start staying at his house. He'll quit staying here every night. Great. They both go to their bedrooms. That's mid-January. 2 nights that works. Mr. Ahuna stops staying the night in the apartment that he's not renting with these 2 young girls. Come Monday night, he's back there every night again. Then Miss Madden has a friend that the DA told you about named Carlisha Caldwell that lives in Corlew Hall in the dorms at MTSU. Well, her roommate had happened to move out. She had an open bed in there, and so Miss Madden starts staying to avoid any kind of conflict, not wanting to take up residency with a man she don't know. She starts staying over at MTSU with her friend. And that's kind of what walks us up to this particular day. She would come back to the apartment periodically. She would spend the night every once in a while, but she predominantly lived with Miss Caldwell over at MTSU. And whether or not it should have been a problem, that Miss Madden never living away from home before, always living with her mom and daddy and brother and sister, whether it should have been a problem that there was a man taking up residency in the apartment she was in or not, it was becoming a problem. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it was becoming one. And since her mom had called the office, it was on the front now. That brings us up to this week before spring break. I told y'all it was Wednesday, March the 2nd. Miss Madden, y'all hear about the classes she had that particular day, and she met up with Renee Reese. They eat some ice cream. Everything's cool. Her daddy was coming to pick her up on that Friday. Told y'all she was staying with Miss Caldwell. So she goes over there to pack some clothes and smoke a joint, just to be honest with you. They go in the apartment. They didn't think anybody was there, like the DA said. They go in Miss Madden's room, had a cigar, hollowed it out, smoked marijuana. This part about she did laundry after the fact, I mean, y'all going to get to decide that yourself. I'd submit to you that in her statement what she says is that before the police got there talking about Officer Jensen that they've said was called on her, that's when she had put her clothes into the laundry. But she was doing laundry, getting ready to pack her bag, getting ready to go home for spring break. Miss Reese goes out and goes to the kitchen area, the common area, and there's a knock at the door. And it's Officer Jensen. Miss Madden goes to the door, opens the door, there's the officer. He says he's got a call about marijuana. He has to search her room. She allows him to search her room, and he finds a small amount of marijuana. Now, to put this in perspective, this is something else that they left out. They know Miss Stewart was at the apartment because she was tweeting. And he talked about a timeline. Well, here's some more stuff to put into that timeline. And these are tweets from Miss Stewart, the athlete. 5:15, UPS better be here before 7 or there will be a problem. Go postal on they ass.
Approach, please. Yes.
Okay, yet another sidebar. This comes as Joe Brandon, during his opening now, is referring to these emails. Any idea what the objection might be about, or the texts that Stewart was sending that day?
Well, it's obvious that maybe or the tweets that they could say that they're not relevant and they're not supposed to get into it, but obviously it's the second time the state has objected his closing argument. And if I am
opening argument.
Opening argument, rather, I'm sorry. And if I'm a layperson, I'm a juror, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, okay, what's the state not want me to hear? And in this particular case, it appears as though she said that she was going to go postal. So he's trying to lay the groundwork that maybe she was in a violent frame of mind, or she was somehow not a happy camper before this all began that day.
So he's kind of laying out right now, obviously what their argument is going to be throughout the trial. I mean, I'm guessing in evidence at some point we're going to see some of these tweets. So he's kind of saying, well, this is what you're going to be seeing later, and he's trying to describe it. Well, let's find out. Here we go. We'll pick it back up.
"5:33, Miss Stewart tweets, I really hate this bitch. My roommate, that is, with an exclamation mark. It's Miss Stewart now. 5:37, and they told you the police that this all goes down around 6:04. This is what Miss Stewart's doing right before the police get there. 5:37, I just called the police on my roommate. I feel like a snitch, but I don't like this bitch. 5:39, Miss Stewart, come on police so y'all can bust her ass. Now y'all listening here for I'm an athlete and I can't get in any trouble, or is it something else? Is it something other than what they're telling you? 5:40, that bitch snitched on me. Payback is a bitch. The snitching on me, and as I continue to progress, the conversation at the door, Miss Stewart's mad because her boyfriend wasn't able to stay over there all the time. Miss Stewart's mad because Miss Madden's mama, being a mama, didn't like her daughter in a room with a man she didn't know, and she called the office. Yes, sir. 542. Maybe I should have said I was white. 544. They love me. That hoe snitched, so I called the po-pos 'cause that bitch smoking weed. Moo ha 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 ha. Evil laugh. 553. They love me. Well, they stopped now. Shit. Damn police took too long. Oh, Miss Stewart. 555. At Check G2 Woods. Well, that bitch getting stitches. Miss Stewart and people she's communicating with. 558. Police is here, in all caps. Yes, this bitch lying. 559. This bitch gonna be too hot. 601. I hope he finds some. Please, please, LOL. That's what was going on, that we know what was going on while the right before the police got there and while the police were there. I think what the proof's going to show is, back up now to Officer Jensen. Miss Madden lets him search the room. He finds a small amount of marijuana. He tells the girls to flush the marijuana and to take the trash to the dumpster. Marijuana gets flushed. That's destruction of evidence. Marijuana gets flushed. Miss Madden and Officer Jensen walk the trash out. Officer Jensen goes on his way. Miss Madden goes back and knocks on Miss Stewart's door. And whether that's something she should have done or not, and clearly at this point she shouldn't have knocked on the door, she knocked on her door. Miss Stewart snatches the door open. Miss Madden asks her, "Why'd you call the police on me?" Miss Stewart responds, "Why'd you call the police on me? Or why'd you tell the office on me?" And they get to arguing. You're going to hear Miss Madden's never been in a lick of trouble ever, never had any contact with the police, never been in any kind of a fight whatsoever. And they start going at it. Miss Madden turns to leave, and y'all get to hear whether she bumped into her, whether she didn't, whether Miss Stewart was towering over her. Miss Stewart shoves Miss Madden, and the fight starts. They're fighting in the bedroom. Proof's going to show that there was a knife laying on the bed, and during the course of this fight, Miss Madden, and yesterday the DA told y'all up yonder in Chattanooga about if somebody's trying to abandon the fight, you're going to hear Miss Reese tell y'all she could hear, please stop, Miss Madden saying, please stop hitting me. Miss Stewart didn't, and she stabbed her. Now they want to talk about this with force. If Dr. McMaster's going to stick with the report, she says maximum depth 2 inches with a knife that I would submit to you is going to show it was 4 3/4, 5 inches. And on whether there was one stab or more, I'm going to leave that to cross-examine her with. There were some more marks on Miss Stewart. That's true. But I think that the proof's going to show there was only one stab wound, and it's consistent with what Miss Madden said. Now, you're going to hear evidence that this knife was bent, and y'all will see the knife. It's still got the bend in it now. It's broke, but it's still got a bow in it. You can see it off the handle, and you can see it off the other piece. There's 2 pieces to that one knife. And you're going to hear Miss Madden talking about she tried to straighten it out. Now, can you wrap your mind around, no matter what happened, right, wrong, or indifferent, and irrespective of what you think, can you imagine putting your hand on a knife dripping with warm blood? Can you imagine what would be going through your mind? You've never, ever been in a fight before. All them tweets have just come out. We know where Miss Stewart was, and we know what her aggression level was at that particular point. Can you imagine what was going through Miss Madden's mind? And the knife breaks. And she comes out in the hall, and Miss Reese, them two come into contact, and Miss Reese sees the blood, and Miss Reese leaves. Now, you would think Miss Reese would go ahead and call the police. But I think the proof's going to show y'all that it was some 35, 40 minutes before she called the police. She didn't have anything to do with this. So, you know, in school, we've all seen the bell curve, and the norm grades was right here in the middle. I think even with this young lady that was there, it didn't have anything to do with it. Her conduct don't fall within what we would think the norm would be. And so there's some bizarre behavior, unusual behavior. I think and y'all get to hear it, I think the proof's going to show there were text messages sent. And whether she was trying to stall, they say that she wanted to make sure she was dead over an hour period of time. You know, I find this interesting. Detective Taylor's going to tell you, and y'all will see this while they're interviewing Miss Madden, she's still got blood on her hand. She's got blood under her fingernails. You're going to hear from the TBI she has blood on her shirt. She has blood on her breeches. Now, for somebody trying to cover something up is a really poor job. You still sitting around with blood on your hands and blood on your clothes over this period of time. And on this knife, she told the detective she walked around outside. Miss Reese she'd gone outside. There's a funeral home right there beside this apartment complex, and Miss Reese had called for somebody to come pick her up, and apparently was over in this funeral home area. And Miss Madden is walking around and walks over there where Miss Reese is, and she tells the detective she walks over there. And the detective's telling her on the interview after she's told them, yes, I'm the one that stabbed her, and she explained how it happened. The detective says, well, look, we really need to find this knife. And as to the statement, she did give conflicting statements. Detective Taylor was very kind to her. And I think y'all will see that out of him when he testifies, and he says, look, ma'am, that's not true. Your life's hanging in the balances here. I need you to tell the truth about what happened. And that's when she comes on and comes clean with it. But then the knife, he's saying a kid could get it. I really need to locate that knife. And she's already admitted she did it. She says, look, it may be outside. I walked around outside. I don't know. It could be in the apartment. It could be outside. I don't know. And at some point later, the detectives find the knife in the garbage can. And Detective Taylor says to Miss Madden, hey, there were some knives in the garbage can. She says, yeah, that's it. I walked around. I was all over the place walking around outside. That was it. And you're going to hear from another detective that they took her back over there and said, which garbage can? And she says, it's that one there. And she tells them where it's at. And that's what the proof is going to show on that particular issue. And then this part, he told you that she ran off. I think what the proof's going to show on that is Mr. Ahuna shows up. And it's like he said, he starts to go in the room, he turns around to leave as a result of something Miss Madden says. And he, I guess, has a hunch. He goes back in there, he finds Miss Stewart. And he starts yelling at Miss Madden. Miss Madden's on the phone with her mama at this particular point, still sitting there in the apartment. And her mama starts telling her to run, run. Her mama don't know what's happening. She just knows that her daughter's called her and told her there was a fight, and now she hears a male voice hollering at her daughter through the phone. She don't know. She's yelling, run. At this point, Miss Madden takes off running. Mr. Ahuna takes off running behind her. She runs out the apartment door, drops her bag that she was going to get ready for spring break, runs down into the parking lot. He's still yelling at her. She gets down behind a car. The police have arrived at this point from Miss Reese's call that went some 35, 40 minutes later after the incident. The police yell, police. She's going to tell you, y'all will hear that at the point she realizes it's the police, she stops. They arrest her at that particular point, and then that's where the statement comes from there. Yesterday I spent a lot of time asking you all to listen, and that's what we're asking you to do at this particular point. And I would submit to you that there's going to be even more evidence than what I've told you about at this particular point. And I believe, and what I'm asking you is, after you listen to all of the evidence in this case, that at the end, that you return a verdict of not guilty as to each of these counts against Miss Madden. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr.